I'm Michael Dieudonné. I'm the coordinator for 6G-SANDBOX. Welcome to the OC2 info session. So we are recording the session such that it can be looked at in the future by other participants. So the session is focusing on the Open Call 2 activities that we have in 6G-SANDBOX. So the agenda for today, I will introduce you to the projects. I will do an introduction about the Open Call 2. Then we'll be discussing the extension topics and the experimentation topic. There is a time at the end of the session for Q&A in case something is not clear for somebody. Okay, good. Let's start. So 6G-SANDBOX is a new project. It's a SNSJU Call 1 project. This is the info fiche about the program. As you can see, we're a consortium about 18 partners in total. The project got a contribution from the European Commission of about 8 million euro, from which a part of the money is redistributed to the open call mechanism, meaning that the consortium received money that we have to redistribute to third party, right? And you as a participant to open call might be one of these third party. What is 6G-SANDBOX about? 6G-SANDBOX is a trial facility. So we have 4 platforms around Europe that are basically, in fact, advanced network, 5G networks or 5G evolution network, in which you see the total chain that has a common experimentation provisioning technology sitting on top, meaning that instead of being aware and going to the details of all the aspects of the telecom infrastructure from each of the individual facility, we have a common environment for you to run your experimentation. That means that an experiment running in one platform, in theory and in practice, should be able to run on another platform without caring about all the details of the underlying technologies. If you look at the objectives from the program, these are the formal 6 objectives we have. I believe the most important one here for us today is to think that this technology or this platform here is in fact an infrastructure. It's an infrastructure that can be used by experimenter to have early experience on 6G. We're looking into 6G KPIs, KVIs as an example. We have developed a lot of measurement technologies and deployed a lot of measurement technologies around the network, which allow people to engage and run experimentation. We, of course, are working on advanced 6G technology, which you will see in a second. But from the perspective of the project, one of the key elements is really running experimentation, so making infrastructure available. And this is the type of technology we're looking at and working on within the project. So you have activities around the experimentation, as I mentioned, right? This is really running measurements, running trials, producing data, producing results. But we're also looking into disruptive wireless, where, for example, FR2 and technologies such as RIS have definitely a place. We're looking into the fixed RAN NTN interaction. So we have, you will see in the platform, certain NTN technology as well. We have the ability to play and deploy deterministic network up to the level of P switches. We can interact with the core. So you can configure, you can change core, use multiple core, distributed core. We have quite a lot of provisioning that enables you to do AI ML within the network at different level, different places, to run experimentation, but also to create and generate data that could be used to train your AI ML technology. We're looking into security, edge cloud continuum. We have a digital twin capability, and we are looking into XR and haptics as being future evolution of the internet. If you look at the architecture, so we can go into more detail, I would recommend you to look into the deliverables. And D2.1, for example, is a good document where you have much more information about the architecture. This is available on our website. When you look at this, in fact, what you see is like an infrastructure sitting on top, which organize the trial and the experimentation, and that basically then be deployed on 4 locations: Malaga, Athens, Berlin, and Oulu, which are in fact places where you can run actual experimentation with the infrastructure in place. I'll double click 2 seconds per site so that you have an ID. So this is, for example, the Athens platform, which is located in Athens. It's a platform combined from NCSRD and from Cosmote. As you can see, we have equipment from Ericsson, some Nokia. So there is mainly traditional base station. There is a set of cores that are connected. There is an NTN emulator, and there is an NTN capability also through Starlink. They have different endpoints and UEs on which you can run your experimentation. There is different measurement equipment and software deployed to validate and to measure the KPIs and certain of your results that you may want to do during your experimentation. So this is just to give you an idea about Athens. Again, more information available in the platform description. This is the Berlin platform located Fraunhofer Focus in Berlin, right? Here, one of the elements, as you can see, is, for example, that the development is more, the deployment on the RAN is more Nokia, but there is also some ORAN capability enabled here through some Benetel ORU. They also have an interesting fiber network, which allows you to do very, very long distances between, for example, your RAN and your core network. So they have the ability to route this through a pretty long circuit around Germany, which can enable you to do experimentation with very distributed system if you're interested in doing that. As you can see from the infrastructure, they also have different virtualization environments, and they also have different core capability in their platform. The third platform is the Malaga platform based in Spain. Right here, you also see, it's a pretty large scale deployment composed of ORU, ODUs, OCUs, right? We have, for example, IS Wireless, which is one of the partner deploying the ODU, the OCU, but also the RIC. You have multiple places where the system is deployed from the university campus itself, but also within the city center, where there is really a street, for example, that is enabled with 5G private network, allowing us to run potentially experiment also in live environments between shoppers and shopping street. There is also an NTN capability, as you can see, again, a Starlink possibility, but there is also the intention to install other NTN capabilities. Okay, different core technologies as well, Polaris, Open5Gs, and so on and so on. So that's the third platform. Then the fourth platform, the last one is the Olu platform, mainly based on Nokia infrastructure. As you can see, this is the 6G flagship platform that is available there in Ulu, where also experimenters can take advantage of that capability. Okay, let's dive into OC2 to introduce basically what this is about. So as I mentioned, 6G-SANDBOX has money set aside as part of the grant agreement to run open calls. We have 3 open calls in total to be run within the project, and the amount of money we need to redistribute is 1.79 million euro in total. With this amount of money, we expect at least 35 third party to participate, meaning that we have through the open calls selections of different companies, universities, research institutes that will basically be participating to 6G-SANDBOX as a third party and will receive funding. Now, one very important point I want to make for the audience here is that this is an open call mechanism. You are not obliged to engage with us through the open call. You can also engage with us without funding. That is very important. So here the session focus on open call and the distribution of open call money. But if you're interested in deploying your technology and you say, look, I don't want to go through the open call process, you're very welcome to contact us and to engage us directly with us. Multiple companies have done that. We are deploying additional technology to demonstrate their capability in our testbed. So this can be seen as a kind of showroom where you are showing off your technology. It does not need to go through the open call. Okay. Now, what is the general timeline for our open call? As you understand, there are 3 open calls. The first open call is already completed. We are currently implementing the activities with the selected participants, and we have distributed around 540,000 euro for this activity. The second open call, which is what we are talking about today, has also a budget of 540,000 euro. The deadline for that open call is the submission of your proposal must be done by February 29th. We'll come back to that with more detail in a second. We anticipate and plan for a third open call. The third open call will be focusing only on experimentation. Now, to the difference between open call 1 and 2, open call 1 and 2 have also new infrastructure as a capability. New infrastructure means we want to expand the capability of the 6G-SANDBOX platforms. We, of course, have in Open Call 2 also experimentation, meaning that you can come as a user and use the facility. Open Call 3 will be only targeted at users' facility, people that want to run experimentation. As you can see, the budget for Open Call 3 is foreseen to be 710,000 euro. And this open call will normally be open by the summer 2024 with a deadline towards the end of 2024 for experimentation to be run in 2025. To the core of the second open call. So this is basically the info fiche as you will find on our website. At the bottom part of the slides, you see, in fact, the web page where you can have all the information on Open Call 2, where this video will also be posted. The submission deadline for the Open Call 2 is 29th of February 2024 at 5 p.m. Central European Time. We basically have, sorry, that's a mistake. The info session is currently going on now. So this needs to be, of course, today and not the last one from Open Call 1. What is important to understand is if you're interested to participate to the Open Call 2, we strongly recommend people and participants to run a feasibility check. As you can see, we are putting a deadline for the feasibility check to be done and started before the 15th of February 2024, just to enable us to have the time to discuss and provide feedback to you as a proposer for any kind of proposal you intend to submit for an open call. To do a feasibility check, we are asking the participant to send an email with a brief description of the activity to the email address opencall@6G-SANDBOX.eu. We will receive this email. We will be reading and understanding, trying to understand what you want to do, provide feedback based on that, such that you have an understanding in how far what you want to run is feasible on this or that platform. Okay. In case you don't do a feasibility check before mid-February, we will need to do the feasibility check basically after the submission deadline. So before the complete call will be closed, there will need to happen a feasibility check. To avoid clocking the system, we strongly recommend people to contact us before 15th of February. The submission of your proposal has to be done through the online submission portal. So there is a link on our webpage where you can basically get to the online submission portal, which allow you to create and to submit your proposal. The proposal, basically template that we have made available on our webpage, needs to be used. So this provides you the structure of what we expect you to submit as a proposal. Aside the template, please don't forget that you need to sign and send a declaration of honor. This is important to ensure that basically the proposer confirm a set of important eligibility criteria from the Commission. The language we expect for the proposal must be in English. Now, if you look at the available funding and the eligibility, here we need to look at two aspects. They are in Open Call 2, two options. Option A is the new infrastructure and functionality. Option B, we're talking about experimentation. So if we go on the left and we talk about infrastructure and functionality, what we are offering for the open call is a standard budget up to 60,000 euro per proposal. So if you are a single entity and you want to propose a technology which fits what is requested, we are typically recommending a budget up to 60,000 euro. If you can justify that your activity requires a higher budget, you can basically request it. Okay, the 60,000 is a guideline amount. Now justify heavily if you go above it. Why? Because the evaluators for this call will need to be convinced that this is a proper and correct investment. If you team up with other company, you can form a small consortium with 3 or up to 3 or more participants. But if you are 3 or more, there is a cap on the amount of money that is available for that consortium. And the cap is set at 180,000 euro. Okay, so if you're 3 companies, it is still 60,000 per company. If you're more than 3, unfortunately, you will need to divide it further because the 180,000 is a hard limit we cannot go over. With respect to experimenters, the amounts are, given the fact that you're not providing technology but using the facility, The standard amount for running an experimentation is maximum 20,000 euro. Aside the 20,000 euro to run the experimentation, meaning potential travel, your time to run the experimentation, to set it up, we are allowing up to 10,000 extra euro for potentially purchasing equipment that you may need to run the experimentation. Imagine that you have a specific device or a specific technology that is not available in 6G Sandbox. You are able to buy that with the amount, or you may need to buy certain software licenses. So if you need to buy something to run your experimentation, there is a potential extra 10,000 euro that can be requested to support your experimentation. Imagine you're not doing an experimentation on your own and you are, for example, 2 or more organization. We are putting the limit at 40,000 euro, 2 organization or more, with again, one time 10,000 euro for equipment or software. Now, typically here, if we see more company running experimentation, we assume that these people are combining their skills, like for example, somebody with a technology and their own customer. It could be a vertical, for example, that runs on your technology. That could be a combination. Now, eligibility criteria are the same for basically the two approach. In any case, we are following the guidelines from the SNSGU with respect to funding, meaning that third party for-profit organization gets a funding percentage of 90%, while non-for-profit organization will get a funding percentage of 100% of the declared costs. As we mentioned, there is a total available budget for this Open Call 2 of 540,000 euro, which is divided in two parts. 270 is used for the extension and 270,000 is used for experimentation. As you can imagine, we are anticipating we are anticipating more experimenters than basically extensions going forward. Second. With respect to eligibility, the countries that are basically available and using and part of the Horizon Europe program can participate. To the contrary of the call one, we are now welcoming UK entities, assuming that the UK-EU agreement will be effective in January 2024. So we can assume that this is the case, if there is no problem. From that moment, UK entities are welcome to basically join as well the participation. Switzerland is still excluded from funding, as well as Hungary due to a decision from the European Commission with respect to the respect of European law. As a proposer, you can submit multiple proposals if you feel that this makes sense, but we are only able to fund one proposal per organization. A last point is that any participating company from 6G Sandbox as a consortium cannot be eligible for participating to the open call. So I personally, for example, being from Keysight, no Keysight entity can participate in this open call. Okay, so automatically we're ruling out participation from the companies that are already partner in the consortium. Same for the institute and same for the universities. Once you have submitted your proposal, there will be an evaluation. The evaluation is done by independent experts. There is a panel that is composed by a list of independent experts. They cannot basically be affiliated to any of the participants or any of the submitter. The experts to be highlighting are not member of the 6G Sandbox consortium. Very important. So the decision is not taken by the consortium. The decision on who to fund is taken by an independent panel of experts. They will use traditional evaluation criteria as we see typically for EU projects, looking into impact, innovation and technology and implementation. As you can see, each criteria has a thresholds and a weight. Once the evaluation have been completed, we will go into the ranking, right? Every proposal will have a certain score. The score will basically be the primary factor to rank the proposals such that we are basically starting to engage with the highest ranked proposal. Of course, infrastructure will be in one list while the experimenter will be a second list. Both have their own list. In case we would have equality on score, prioritization will be given to other characteristics. And that is something that the panel of evaluator will define at that case in case this is the case. The proposal will also be selected such that we are covering as much as possible different topics from what we call. So imagine that we would have two proposals with a very high score, but on the same technology. The best of the two will win. The second one will unfortunately not be funded. And of course, another element is that extensions that are covering more basically 6G sandbox facility or that are bringing balance such that there is equal utilization of the 6G facility makes a lot of sense. Here are getting priorities. If you're successful, which we hope you will all be, we expect a decision to be committed and confirmed by April latest. So submission end of February. You can expect evaluation during the month of March, early April, communication to the successful proposal during the month of April. If you are successful, we will be contacting you, but you will also get basically requested to sign the agreements. There is a contract for both that is available already on our webpage, where you can basically see what typically is expected from the contract perspective. Assuming that basically you are signing the contract, which is a take it or leave it pretty much, you are able to start the work normally during the month of May, June, and we are assuming that you will need about 6 months to do that. With the vacation, that means that it would be a project to be completed somewhere in December or January. If your activity needs more time and you justify that in the proposal, this will be taken into account. Okay, these are just targets or guidelines with respect to what is expected by when. Why this timeline? Because we expect experiment open code 3 to run experimentation basically also from January timeframe. Okay, so if you are bringing technology that will be used in open code 3, we should be ready when people are starting in 2025 with their experimentation. With respect to the extensions, and that is very important to know, you are bringing technology to the testbed with the intention that this can be used also by people to run experimentation. So that means that once you have installed and you have done the work, we expect you to still be able to be there in case there is something not working, or if there is an upgrade, or if there is some support needed. So take that into account that you need to provide some support after the completion of the work. So everything is to be made available to the community for running experimentation. Okay, good. So far, we have been discussing about the project. We have been discussing about the Open Call 2 high-level activity. I will now show you the list of the topics that are basically related to the extension and the experimentation. So we start first with the extensions. Okay, so this is really technology we want to augment inside the project such that you can add technology and make it available for experimentation. The first one is related to the integrated sensing and communication. So if you have technology that augment the testbed, that enable the testbed to become a JCAS or an ISAC system, we are interested in basically receiving such type of proposal. This can be into an optic of, for example, saving energy, but this can also enabling different type of application. Everything related to joint communication and sensing is of interest for the platforms. A second aspect would be around the technology that you are using or promoting for Internet of Sense. So within the consortium, we, for example, have a company that brings a jacket that allows you to feel certain sensation. If you have 3D glasses or if you have other type of Internet of Sense type of devices, this is definitely something that we would be interested in. This would be, again, be a technology that stays in the consortium and in the project until the end to enable new type of use cases, new type of experimentation. RIS, reflective intelligence surface, technology, infrastructure, to expand the 6G sandbox capability is definitely relevant. This can be both or in FR1 and or in FR2 frequencies. We have definitely location where we can run later on experimentation as part of the project to demonstrate the capability of RIS in realistic environment. So if you are having RIS technology, definitely this is something that we would be welcoming. Next topic is around content distribution network. So if you have software that runs on server that are specialized in distributing content, that basically can be used, for example, to verify the quality of experience for a broadcasting system, as an example, this is definitely relevant. We have currently one content distributed network capability as part of the infrastructure, but if we have others, we are definitely welcoming these type of technologies as well. Everything related to portable servers and smart furniture with respect to 6G for AI ML workloads, this is definitely something that makes sense. We have multiple locations in the facilities where we are enabling today AI ML type of technology within the network to be validated, to be verified. Definitely, if you have technologies into that direction, there is definitely room for augmentation. So feel free to come with AI ML technology, whether it's the RIC or in other location inside the network, is all possible. The next topic is around digital twin. So we are working on digital twin. We are creating a digital twin of certain work environments, certain city environment, everything related to real-time data. If you want to basically do and augment these types by self-learning, by evolving to take into account how our current starting digital twin should basically evolve and take into account, for example, new information, self-learning, there is definitely an interest from our side to receive such type of technology. So starting point is an existing digital twin that is made available by 6G-SANDBOX. You could also bring your own, but there is definitely interest in seeing how this can evolve and be expanded. Another topic is related to the operation center, so the experimentation center. As you can understand, we are running multiple experimentation at the same time. We would like to have a kind of portal that allows us to basically manage the experimentation, um, uh, and do the balancing. So this is really a kind of experimental load balancer, a technology that looks at what type of resources are needed and available, ensure reservation, ensure an optimal use of basically the total infrastructure, such that experimentation can run at in proper and good conditions. The next topic is around millimeter wave. Any type of RF, microwave technology that you have, whether it's standalone or something that is integrated with basically a kind of backhaul, whether it's then for UE technology or more on the infrastructure side, all of that is relevant and can be proposed. If you're working on dynamic slice allocation, everything related to entitlement server is definitely other technology where further expansions can be accepted. We do support slices today. We want to make it even more dynamic and more basically a la carte to enable complicated experimentation where you, for example, like to do analysis of two slices and understand how they are comparing with each other. 1 second, sorry. Different 5G PPP projects have also been finishing their activities a couple of months ago and in the next couple of months. If you have final results from your project that are basically interesting and that are mature enough, we would be very appealed to introduce these results into the 6G-SANDBOX platform. So definitely projects that have been basically creating demonstrator can transfer the demonstrator technology into 6G-SANDBOX. If you have multicast broadcast services, the MBS, which is basically one of the features we have in 5G, and you own such type of technology, there is definitely interest to augment this inside the testbeds. Everything related to explainable AI which way we want to work on the O-RAN functionality in 6G network is also a valid technology. So we have a rig deployed. If you're working on XApps or RApps and you want to augment basically this, or you want to validate some of your XApps, RApps technology, we definitely are interested in having that running inside the project. Provision system for eSIM. Don't think I need to be more clear here. We need to have the ability to work with eSIM within the consortium so that we can easily create trials in larger quantity of users. And for this, the best way we believe is to have the eSIM capability. If you are working on AI techniques for autonomous network and zero touch network, we are definitely welcoming these type of techniques as well. Whether it's a framework to deploy something to validate, this is all of interest. If your company work on ambient IoT devices, there is an interest at our end to be able to deploy them on the different platforms to get additional devices, relevant devices that can be shared. And in more general terms, we are still open for any other type of 6G capability that you find could be relevant or that you may have in your company or in your research institute and where you feel that 6G Sandbox should benefit from it. Okay. Again, all these topics are described. They are basically available, and there is a technical document where you have more text around each of them. If there are questions or if you require certain further explanation, please reach out through the open call mailing address. Any questions we will be receiving will also be posted on the frequently asked question for transparency purpose. The next topic I will cover now, aside the extensions, are the experimentation. So if you look at 6G Sandbox and you read deliverable D2.1 or you look at the technical guide for experimenters, what you will see is that our platforms already have quite a lot of technology and are in fact very well equipped for performing any type of measurements, whether it's in the core or into the radio access network. So from an experimental perspective, we are not imposing too much restriction. We are interested in 6G type of experimentation or 5G evolution type of experimentation, something that can demonstrate really the ability of the technology as we have it today. So this is a non-restrictive list of topics where we believe we have quite a lot of technology to offer to enable an experimentation. So if you're working on energy in the network, we typically can measure any type of energy consumption. Whether it's into the virtual or into the physical world, we have enough platforms to be able to run scenarios and to verify, for example, the energy capability. So if your experimentation deploy or develop a new algorithms to optimize maybe certain type of aspects of the energy, definitely this can be run on 6G Sandbox and should be able to get you quite a lot of interesting information. We have deployed quite a lot of technology to enable visibility across backhaul and fronthaul. So we can typically measure quite a lot of the KPIs in both ends to verify basically certain performance of certain activities based on your technology. If you are developing or working around O-RAN, we can pretty much measure any type of O-RAN activity or topic. So whether it's, for example, a new ORU that you're developing, we could look at, in fact, running some testing to verify integration potentially, or we can verify in some cases how the performance would be of your technology around O-RAN. We are enabling most of the AI topics, research topics as well. So if you are applying AI at the RIC level, or if you're applying AI at the network level, or maybe at the air interface level, we have quite a lot of technology inside the 6G Sandbox platforms that allows you to measure basically performance and capabilities. Okay. Now, related to AI, one of the possibility in the experimental area is also to run experimentation to generate data, to train your AI. So the platform is not just to deploy your technology, but also can be used to train your AI so that you, once you have your data set, basically to train your AI, you can redeploy, for example, your AI technology and verify the performance. So for example, testing of XApps, RApps in general on the deployment is possible. If you're working as an experimenter into the deterministic network, as I mentioned, we, for example, have deployed P4 switches that allow custom routing, which should normally enable any type of deterministic type of network work. That perspective, we should have the capability to measure very close latency, very accurate, and verify topics around fixed routing, for example, protocol, but you can also play with cybersecurity on top of your deterministic network if you wish. As I mentioned, we are working on digital twin. So everything that is related to extracting models from a component, a 6G component or a 5G evolution component, to be added to the digital twin can be run as an experimentation. You can deploy as well any new type of technology in the digital twin. This is all possible. Please contact us if you want to get more details on this type of activity. As I mentioned, for any type of purpose, creating data set, whether it's to train your AI, to run other type of experimentation, or to get other type of information, the data can be created through the 6G-SANDBOX platform. We are having a pretty good coverage on cybersecurity, on the DevSecOps topic. We can test, we can attack the network. So you can run small attacks, large scale attacks. We can emulate one user to millions of users to be able to see what the performance is of the overall network and potentially, for example, test your intrusion detection system as an example. Right? So if you're working on this type of technology, this is another playground where you can run experimentation in the platform. We are, as I mentioned, interested in RIS as we discussed from an extension perspective, but we are also working currently on deploying RIS and having RIS made available into the lab and also into other environments. If you are interested in running experimentation around RIS technology, this is also possible within the timeline that is proposed here. Okay, so it can be integration of new components, additional components that you bring, which would typically be more an extension. But if you want to run really measurement campaign on this, this can be done as an experimentation. So in general, we can do quite a lot with our network. We can create any type of network scenario, any type of traffic load, any type of user load. We can create a lot of different impairments where there are latency, jitter in one place or another place. We have an MOU in place with the European Space Agency, which can enable access to some of the facility. We have the NTN deployment as well within the 6G-SANDBOX, where we can emulate you a satellite, or you can use the real satellite by, for example, leveraging the Starlink or the OneWeb capability that we are building into the testbed. So all of that should enable quite a lot of experimentation. So we are not putting any type of restriction on the kind of experimentation, but one of the criteria here with respect to experimentation is it has to go towards 6G, right? So if you say I have an experimentation that needs SMS, I'm not sure we are the right platform to do that. Okay, but if you say this is something that will be a use case towards 6G, definitely we would like to welcome you to perform experimentation with us. This brings us to the end of this talk, which is meaning that we are opening up the question and answer. We will be stopping the recording here, such that the session here is basically made available for any future view until the end of the open call 2 deadline. Alit, can you please stop the recording? Thank you.